So I want to talk just a little bit today about voting third party, voting independent. Now, the reason that I want to talk about this, well, there's a couple reasons. First off, I'm libertarian. So about half the time, about 50% of the time, I end up voting for the libertarian candidate. The other half, I usually find myself voting for a Republican if the Republican I'm voting for is somebody that falls in line with my own personal beliefs and principles. In other words, they believe in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the original intent of those documents. They believe in maximum freedom, maximum liberty. They believe in the Second Amendment and what it really means, and they are there to protect those rights. When a Republican falls in line with those things, I will vote for him. Otherwise, I vote libertarian, and I certainly get a lot of crap for doing that. And I'm sure a lot of people out there who have thought about voting third party get a lot of crap for that too, or they anticipate getting a lot of crap for that, or they see repercussions to that action that don't really exist. That's why it's important to talk about this now, especially going into an election where both candidates, the Republican nominee and the Democrat nominee, both have ridiculously, insanely high negatives. When these two people are polled, just on how people feel about them, both of these candidates, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, are, for the most part, hated far more than any other candidates that have run in the last 35 years, period. Hated by both sides. And when something like that happens, you can be damn sure that third-party voting is going to be up this time around. So it's important to have this discussion to find out whether or not voting third party, voting independent, libertarian, Green Party, doesn't matter, is something that might be right for you. So the one thing you're going to hear over and over and over again, every time you talk about voting third party, especially if you lean more Republican, what you're going to hear this time around is, well, any vote that's not for Donald Trump is a vote for Hillary Clinton, right? It's the same thing we heard back in 2012. Any vote that's not for Romney is a vote for Obama. And that's great. And it sounds pretty logical right off the bat, except that the people who say this have literally no understanding of how our electoral process works. And they don't understand the value of how our political system works. And I want to explain it like this. 150 years ago, the Republicans were a third party. You see, but a lot of people got together. They grew some balls, and they decided to step up and make the Republicans great. And you know what happened? We got Abraham Lincoln. We got the Republicans as one of the two major parties, and they did a great job for a very long time. Now, it can be rationally debated that they are no longer that great party, and in fact, I think most of us would agree. But this was what happened when people put their minds to doing away with a two-party system, to giving themselves another alternative. They created something that for a time was a great thing. We can do that again. That's how our political system works. It just requires growing a set, deciding to not be a pussy, and do it. Now, on the other hand, we have the electoral process. And this is where it kind of starts to come into play when somebody says, well, if you don't vote for Trump, you might as well be voting for Hillary. And it becomes apparent they don't understand how our electoral process works. They don't understand the difference between the popular vote and the electoral vote. They don't get it. And they also don't understand that you can take advantage of the current system in place to help build a strong third party without affecting the results of an election. You see, only a handful of states usually decide the results of an election. It's usually somewhere between 5 to 7 states. These we call swing states or purple states. States like Florida, Ohio, New Mexico. States that, depending on the political climate, can go either Democrat or Republican. To kind of put this in context for you, most elections are decided within 4 to 5 points. In fact, a 10-point victory would be a ridiculous landslide. In other words, if somebody won 55 to 45, that is considered a ridiculous landslide that almost never happens. Usually, somebody wins like 52-48. That's considered a pretty good landslide. And that 4-point difference is decided by these few states. That's what we have to understand. If you live in a red state like I do, Texas, it doesn't matter who I vote for. My state is going to go to the Republican. If you live in a blue state like California, it doesn't matter who you vote for. Your state is going to go to the Democrat. That is how our current political system works, our current electoral system works. And so I think you can see the advantages that we as people who might not want to decide between the lesser of two evils can use this system to build up a strong third party. We can use our votes to help bring numbers of third parties up to where they gain national attention without affecting the results of an election. So to sum up here, understand how the electoral process works. Understand how politics work in this country and how you can do something to build a strong third party to help do away with the bullshit two-party system we've been dealing with for far too long. Stop voting for the lesser of two evils if you truly don't want to. Grow some balls, stop being a pussy, and help build a strong third party.